Welcome everybody. It is the 4 o'clock hour here at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center on GoLocal Live. Welcome. We've got one of our candidates for governor, Paul Roselli, running as a Democrat, challenging
challenging both the establishment and whoever else shows up in the next moment. You never know.
Big group of folks who have already announced or may be announcing for governor.
Sure.
There's somewhere around, I think, 6 or 7 folks have already declared. We're assuming Governor Raimondo will run for re-election. Then there's a couple question marks. Let's talk about it. How do you break through at the beginning of this and get name recognition out there and tell people who you are and what you want to do for Rhode Island?
Sure. So the biggest thing for me, and you said it, is name recognition. But I've established that over the past almost 20 years or so in the environmental movement, with a lot of working on a lot of nonprofit organizations throughout the state. I've got good name recognition there and know all of those folks as well. The challenge is going from that type of world to a much bigger world to take it to a statewide effort, and that's where the challenge is. Over the past 4 or 5 years, I've worked as a lobbyist in the State House. I know that temper and that tone, and I know some of the players in that organization, and some of the workings of how to make things work for Rhode Island. And I've worked as a grassroots organizer for the past 3 years, particularly on this power plant issue that is in the northwest corner of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So take all that together, and it's a challenge, but the word is getting out. It's absolutely getting out. A lot of events, a lot of media coverage. GoLocal Live, you folks here have been fabulous, very supportive of all the candidates, and certainly of me too. So
no, we appreciate that. Let's talk about Invenergy a little bit.
Sure.
I think that's really, from a statewide standpoint, where you've kind of punched through and people have really gotten to know you. It's a big project. This is I think it was originally announced at about $600 million, but it's climbed from there.
It's climbed to $1 billion project.
It's a $1 billion project, and in some ways, I think when it was first announced, before anybody took a look at it, I was like, oh, somebody wants to invest $1 billion. I think it was $670 million at the onset. Oh, they want to come and invest a lot of money into Rhode Island, and then Governor Raimondo was a strong supporter of it.
Sure, way back August 1st, 2015, that memorable day when the governor said, and I quote, and I can absolutely quote this verbatim, she said, "We will do everything we can to make sure you're successful here." It took us a little while to get going, but starting in October and November, we kicked off a statewide campaign to make sure that we could both delay and defeat this. And so far, we're headed towards that goal.
And the opposition has focused on a couple issues: the environmental impact, and that effort to reinvest in fossil fuels, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's a duality of issues.
Yeah. So I want to be super clear on this, because it's taken on a slightly different turn of events. This has now become a jobs and economy issue. You got to think, and I'm happy to talk ad nauseum about this, but think where we were 3 years ago and what we could have accomplished in those 3 years if we had not devoted all this time, energy, and money and state resources to working on this project, putting in all the time and effort at the PUC, spending enormous amounts of money through not just the town of Burrillville, but a lot of municipalities. Think of where we could be. When I calculate the numbers, there was $3 billion worth of jobs creation, materials, services that could have been created in those 3 years for alternative fuels, alternative energy, both wind and solar. Also dealing with all the siting issues. Only now in the past 4 or 5 months are we dealing with the siting issues. If we had thought about this 3 years ago and not put an entire state on the verge of going over this fossil fuel cliff, if we had put all of our resources and had somebody in the top leadership position to actually move the economy and jobs to something different, we would be in a much different place today.
It is an amazing, I worked my early part of my career both for John Chafee and then for some governors here on environmental policy. And, the desire was we wanted to replace fossil fuels
Sure.
when the economics of wind and solar crossed over, that there'd be an inflection point. And now we're at that point in which wind and solar are very affordable, only going to get
Sure.
cheaper, totally commercialized, but yet we're still dancing with a major new
Sure.
energy plant.
Sure.
Is there a lack of leadership? I don't hear anybody talking about this at,
Right.
at a state level.
Right.
No legislative leader, no governor, no members of the congressional
right.
delegation. It seems strange because all of them on paper are environmentalists.
Right.
What's the issue here?
Yeah. So one of the things I hope separates me from the rest of the increasing herd and pack
Right.
is that I absolutely want to talk about these issues. Green jobs, energy efficiency programs. Energy efficiency is the first fuel when it comes to saving energy and getting us off of fossil fuels. I'm not shying away from these issues.
Right.
These are big issues. The recent talking sessions that the Rhode Island Foundation has been doing all throughout the state.
Right.
I've been to 2 of them. I'm going to go to 2 more. Believe it or not, one of the issues that comes up is the natural beauty and the environment of our state.
Listen, when the rankings come out, ranking Rhode Island as a business environment, Forbes, Fortune, Inc., it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The one category we always consistently is quality of life,
Yeah.
quality of living. That's where we're always in the top 10.
Yeah.
It is our natural beauty.
It is our natural beauty. And those things need to be protected. I was blown away, and not just because of the location, but 2 sessions that I was in, they talked about the Blackstone River.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working in environmental stuff for a long time, and to go to a place, and I won't give the names of the cities or towns, but these are interior towns that don't even know where the Blackstone River is. Sorry, but that's what they mentioned. They mentioned the Blackstone River as being underutilized and something we need to protect.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I worked for John Chafee and worked on the Blackstone Valley Heritage Corridor designation 1987-ish.
Sure.
And I remember we did a tour in boats down the Blackstone. And Dean Starkman was the
Sure.
reporter. Providence Journal ultimately went to the Wall Street Journal and wrote for us later on. He's now lives in Hungary. But he came on that trip, and I think everyone was blown away. This is, 30 years ago.
It is pretty amazing.
How incredibly beautiful the Blackstone was 30 years ago. Now it's 1,000 times cleaner,
Yeah.
and so much of the mill complexes have been transformed into residential. It's a beautiful place and an unutilized
Wonderful
resource.
location. There is only one restaurant that has an outside balcony that overlooks the Blackstone River. And on any given summer day or a warm day between May and September, that place is packed
Yeah.
with people.
Well, let me go to
Yeah.
one issue.
Yeah.
We do seem to be buttressing into this, and we're seeing it in a lot of places as the economy's improved a little bit.
Sure.
We're still trailing the rest of the country. But are we entering into some delusional NIMBYism? Okay?
sure.
And I'm not speaking about that, but we now have folks trying to block solar projects, wind projects, and at some point we need a comprehensive energy strategy. And we will scare away capital, we will scare away developers if every time you try and do anything in Rhode Island, you walk away banging your head saying, hey, listen, I tried to bring a good project here.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
you
How
bet.
do we get a hold of that?
So we do need a comprehensive energy program, and I'm on those committees. Unlike some of those unlike some of the other candidates who are on there, I'm actively participating in those stakeholder meetings and those boards and study commissions, both regarding the Energy Facilities Siting Board, the
Yeah.
siting of some of the solar and wind projects, what it means to actually be an energy project in Rhode Island, small hydro projects, solar panels on roof. What does that mean
Yeah.
for the grid? Also, the public utilities. There are 2 public utilities in the state of Rhode Island. One is in the northwest corner of Rhode Island, Pasco, Rhode Island. And is there a way to mold all of that for a comprehensive plan? I think the answer is absolutely. And I think we're going to find over the next few months both the Energy Facility Siting Board legislation, the stakeholders legislation for siting of these, that the comprehensive approach it will give two things. One, it'll relieve and give a lot of relief for municipalities who are just struggling with this because they're, as you say, they're butting heads.
And it's a little worrisome.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's great planning across Rhode Island that these cities and towns then react and create a moratorium. Because if you create a moratorium, listen, we're going to create a moratorium against low-income housing.
Yeah.
We're going to create a moratorium against group homes. We're going to create a moratorium. You can literally zone your way and shift all the burden into other cities and towns.
I'm a firm believer in getting people together and talking about it. One of the things we've been doing over the last several months is holding these listening sessions all throughout the state. And they've been very, very effective. They're also giving people an opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
What I found very surprising, even today, here we are, social media, 2018, lots of different ways of getting the message out. People still feel they're not being heard.
Yeah.
People still don't know where the money is going in terms of our budget. People still feel they're disconnected from state government. And that's translated into look at our voting records and our voting, people who get out to vote. Very low numbers. Special election in Pawtucket.
Oh my God! 6% of the registered voters.
6% of the registered voters in Pawtucket came out. Granted, it was a special election, but still.
Even so, you can't get much lower than that.
Can't get much lower than that.
Putin gets out like 100% of the vote in
but wait,
in
that's
Russia.
a gunpoint and incentives.
They all show up.
They all show up. All right.
Let's talk about the race. Listen, races have changed and transformed. It used to be, how much money could you raise to buy how much TV? Well, whether you like him or not, Donald Trump proved you don't need to be on TV. You can win states on social media campaigns.
And with a message.
And with a clear message.
And with a clear message.
So you're going around right now, you mentioned before we came on, you're doing about 10 events on
about
average.
10 events a week at least, probably more, but after 5 or 6, I kind of blur out as to where I'm going next.
And what are you hearing? Not just about how wonderful a candidate you are, we'll get to that in a moment, but what are you hearing about sort of, we used John Della Volpe from Harvard to do our polling. It's one of the top pollsters in the country. And, the big question in every public poll is right track, wrong track. And again, Rhode Island came out wrong track. And those numbers sort of mirrored what the governor's approval ratings were. She was at 34%, 6% excellent, 28% good. A low number for an incumbent governor.
Sure.
What are you hearing as you go around the state?
So just to be clear on those numbers haven't changed since our governor was elected way back in 2014. The amount of votes that the governor got was about that. It was about 30-something.
She was right at 40.
Yeah, right
at the statewide.
39, 40%.
Yeah.
And here we are 4 years later, and those numbers, either approval ratings or who might vote for, are very low too. So what I'm hearing throughout the state is that there's a disconnect. We have a governor here who spends most of her time outside of the state raising funds for something, not really quite sure what. Maybe some.
I think it's re-election. I'm like, she's good at it.
She's good. Our governor's good at raising money. That's correct. Who some of the donors are is questionable, but that's another show.
Well, I think that's fair game. I think anytime anybody's running, who's supporting them and who's not.
And I think that's fair game. Absolutely
yeah.
Fair game. And one of the reasons I'm in this game, I'm running, is because way back last year, I looked at just where those funds were coming from, and a lot of those funds were coming from the very people that we were trying to fight in terms of this power plant in northwestern Rhode Island. And at that point, I said enough. But that's what I'm hearing when I go throughout the state. There's this feeling of not being supported, not being listened to, and being ignored.
So tell me something she's done well.
Our governor, I voted, I'll be the first to admit it. Matter of fact, I will be the first to admit it, that I voted for our governor as treasurer. I voted when Gina Raimondo ran for treasurer, and I voted because I wanted a woman in that office. And I thought at the time that was the right person for that job. being a woman was something I wanted to see in my lifetime, both in the state level and in the federal level, nationwide. In terms of what good she has done, I think that in itself, showing that anybody, whatever gender roles you have, whatever.
So her big plus is she's a woman.
Her big plus is that she won.
Yeah.
And then she won as a woman, and that's the big plus here. And I don't feel that there's a disconnect here. We all recognize that. We all supported that right from the beginning. That was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that our state was the first to have, in our state anyway, we had a woman as governor. Over the last 3 years.
Anything? Nothing?
No, that's not true.
Give her one win.
Sure, one win is our construction trades, and that has certainly been a plus for the state. Not a big plus, and if you look at the numbers in terms of actually numbers of people who are employed in the heavy industry, not the soft industries, not the remodeling,
this
the installation,
and road works, those two combined.
The cranes in the air, the new construction.
The crane.
The crane
we have
in
one
the air.
crane. Yeah.
The construction along 295. Not a big fan of that complex in 295.
Yeah. The Citizens Bank.
The Citizens Bank. Mostly the parking lot. The parking lot's probably bigger, or the parking structure is probably the biggest thing on that whole campus. But and that little monument right in front of 295 with that big glaring light, it's just too bright at night. It blinds me. So that I can push towards the governor. I can say, absolutely, she sided up to the construction trade. They responded. They were able to come to some understanding, some meaning of just how to make things work in Rhode Island in terms of reducing some of the regulation, moving us towards that type of building trades. And it's happened. The new construction along the river here, right near the State House, the crane in the air.
Apartment complex over there. Joe Palino's projects, Wexford's down there. There's some stuff getting built.
There's some stuff
let's jump over to the lieutenant governor's race. It's already we're going to use the term frothy battle between Representative Aaron Ruggenberg and incumbent Dan McKee. Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference in that race?
I like them both.
You like them both. You're going straight down the middle.
No, I like them both. I've worked both with Dan and with Aaron over these many years, both in the legislature and with Dan McKee, both when he was mayor of Cumberland and now that he's a lieutenant governor. On the plus side, Aaron has the environment to his name and certainly some social justice issues. On the other side, Dan is a very pragmatic kind of guy, a nuts and bolts kind of guy. So each of those has qualities. But I favor Aaron. I think his qualities will propel Rhode Island into a new future. He's young. He's got that drive and that passion. He's well respected in the legislature, both on the House and the Senate side. He's able to push through bills, and I think as a lieutenant governor, he'd be great. Along with Aaron, if I get in that next seat to his right or left as governor, that team I think will really move Rhode Island into a much better place.
In your space, in your voice, Matt Brown is dancing either thinking about running as a Democrat. We had him on, I think, the first day. Yeah. He made some noise about it. He was on with Kate Nagel, our news editor, and now he wants to run as an independent, may run as a Democrat. What's your sense of his candidacy, and where did he come from? I mean, we all knew him 20 years ago, but he sort of parachuted out of nowhere. We haven't seen him.
Yeah, haven't seen him for at least 3 years. And
3 years. I was going to go 20.
20 years. 20 years is
15
good.
Years, something.
Somewhere between 3 and 20 is the truth. But anyway, somewhere along the line, he disappeared, hasn't come back. I haven't talked to him straight.
Do you see him out and about at events?
No. I'm just about the only candidate who gets out there. I haven't seen him. I have good working relationships with all of them. When I started this race, one of the things I wanted to make sure I did was to get to know the other players, not from an opponent or competitive side, but to know their psyche, to know their strengths.
Find their weaknesses.
To know their strengths, because we all
Key
live.
debate opportunities. Are you like Matt Damon in that, where he's like, that guy's left-handed, he's got a knife in his boot, that sort of thing?
Because we all live under the same sky, we all breathe the same air. And I found it to be both an exciting part of running, to know the other folks. I've met Luis Daniel Munoz, Giovanni Ferrosci. Giovanni and I talk a lot every once in a while about environmental issues, energy issues, business issues. That's been a really exciting conversation. Bill Gilbert of the Moderate Party, Spencer Dickinson. I know.
Is Bill Gilbert announced?
The Moderate Party, from what I understand.
Yeah, I don't
Bill,
think we've received anything from them.
Bill can certainly talk about this for himself. They haven't,
Sure.
they haven't announced a candidate, but they want to. They want to field a candidate.
And why wouldn't they recruit you or recruit one of the other candidates who are already running? I mean, they sort of did that with Bob Healy. They kind of pulled him out at the last minute and injected him into the race.
Injected him in, he got 20% for pretty much just showing up.
Yeah.
Which is, that's what
Have you thought about the beard? Have you thought about growing out the beard?
No.
You've got enough time to get it down to about...
I'm not going to grow out the beard, no. One of the great things about Rhode Island is that we have some really exquisite talent. We do, and I'm not pandering, but it really is amazing on the business side, the philosophical side, the value-driven side, the nonprofit side, and spiritual, and a whole bunch. We have some exquisite people here, and I think maybe it's because of the water we drink, or it's because of the educational institutions that are here. We're all products. Just about everybody who is in this race is a product of some part of the educational system here at Brown, whether it be URI or Brown University or a host of other colleges and universities, high schools, and everything else.
Let me jump over to one other issue.
Yeah.
The governor's had a very difficult time in relationships with the legislative leaders, depending on the week.
Yeah.
I think it's no secret the public fights she's had, especially with Speaker Mattiello.
Sure.
And it seems detrimental to getting things done at any level. That the two of them just don't have a working, functional
there's no
relationship.
Rapport. There's no working relationship or working rapport with them. And I think that not only holds us back, but it prevents us from really looking ahead. Things like women's reproductive rights should have been an easy sell.
Right.
Should have been easy on both issues, and it got hammered, and walls were built. Until now, here we are near the very end of the legislative session, and there's hearings and the codifying Roe versus Wade legislation, and might happen this year. I'm a big supporter of reproductive rights. Certainly, our energy policy, our policy when it comes to the environment, business regulations, small business regulations, to me, all should have been easy sells over these last 3 years, and they've been hard. Look what happened last year. Mattiello said, well, picked up all his marbles and left. He said, we're done.
Right.
I'm out of here.
Let's go rapid fire.
Yeah,
thumb up or thumb down on these to wrap up. PawSox funding scheme.
Yeah, PawSox funding, it's too valuable a property, too valuable a location to put a ballpark there. Thumbs
So you're
down.
no. Okay.
Thumbs down.
Let's go over to UHIP. Should Deloitte be fired?
Yeah, Deloitte should be fired. Deloitte should have been fired from day one. If it didn't happen then, it's not going to happen now.
The governor's got in the budget, it's dependent on a United States Supreme Court decision to expand gambling in a very significant way. It really hasn't gotten the attention because this is a big game changer.
Sure.
It's locked into the budget at around $23 million. Expansion of sports gaming, up or down?
Yeah, absolutely down.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need it.
Let's go. I think I know your position on Invenergy.
Down. Thumbs down. Thumbs down. Hearings start next week. It'll take us till Halloween before we get to some type of final decision. In my humble opinion, next year at this time, we'll still be here talking about Invenergy.
An area we've covered a ton of has been the chaos in the hospital industry right now. You've got Care New England fledgling financially, partners coming out of Boston, Is that a good idea to have partners come down? This is one of our largest employers. I think it's the third largest private employer. Does that need to be looked at hard?
It needs to be looked at from a stakeholder point of view. As of right now, there are no people who are actually getting the benefits, whether it be Medicaid, Medicare, just normal health care plans, Blue Cross, United Health, whatever it is. Nobody's on those study commissions. Nobody's on those panels. And I'm on Medicare. I'm on a single payer. I believe in Dr. Fine. Dr. Fine, if you're looking, I support
we have him
you.
regularly?
Support you regularly every chance I get. We need a single payer healthcare system. We can do it in Rhode Island.
Anything else you want to say while you're on?
You bet. www.paulroselli.com. I need a lot of support. There's a race to be had, and I'm in the race. I'm in the race. I need 1,000 signatures to get on the ballot. I'm going to make sure that happens. I'm going to go all the way to September with the support of all the folks here who've been supporting me since November of last year. We can make this happen. We can win. We can take this to November. Our governor cannot win in November. That's the problem. So if you don't want, if you want some other type of party in that main seat in the State House, then you got to vote for me.
Paul, we're big fans of everybody who jumps in the arena and runs for election. I want to thank you again for coming on. Keep us up to date.
You bet.
Keep the information flowing. We're going to be right back at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center with our columnist, our favorite, Bob Whitcomb. We'll be right back.